Okay, so this time we are here talking about another book that I've read. One of, I've been reading so many good books lately. Each one seems to be better than the next. I'm really glad I'm reading all these books right now. I mean, the whole year we've been at home, staying safe, away from the chaos outside, and I thought I should make the most of it and do things that I really like doing. And I've been giving myself occupied doing the things I like doing and maybe trying out a few experimental things that I haven't tried in a long while. Um, One of those things which, in the chaos of regular days and the turmoil of regular days, all the workload and all that, one of the things that I didn't get to do for such a long time was reading quality books. uh, Reading is a habit that I'm into, like, on and off, and because of a lack of free time in the regular days, I don't really get to read much. And in the time that I got to stay home, I've been getting a lot of time to read, and I loved and am loving every bit of it. And one such book that I've read recently is Jeffrey Archer's Kane and Abel. There's so much good things I can say about this book. It's such a good book. This book here, as you can see, is really, really worn out. Like, you can see, it looks like this book has been eaten by mites and microbes in all the years that it spent in my cupboards. And I think this book is older than I am, really. And it says right on top of the book, right in the cover page, it's obviously one of those New York Times best-selling books. And some critic has to say this about this book. Larry King says there isn't a better storyteller alive, and I agree. I completely agree. Like, this book, the story being told in this book is gripping right from page 1, and I think it's gripping all the way up to what is it, like 560, 570, 577. Like, every bit of it. I guess there are like probably 560 or 570 pages in this, and every page, right from the first page to the last, is as gripping as the previous and as intense as the next. This is like one of those blockbuster movies that I really don't want to there's someone at the door. This is one of those blockbuster movies that I don't want to spoil when I'm talking about it. It's that good. This book is, it's such a good book that I don't want to spoil its contents to you. I'm just going to give you like this brief idea of what this book is about. So this book switches to and fro, back and forth, between the lives of our two central characters, William Kane and Abel Rosnowski. Oh, damn. Even thinking about this book is giving me the shivers. It was such a good book. So the general idea of this book is Abel Rosnowski grows up having a really messed up childhood. Abel Rosnowski has a childhood that no children should have. A lot of struggles, a lot of loss, a lot of pain. It's not the ideal childhood that one would want to live or one would want to grow up with. And William Kane, on the other hand, gets exactly that. He is born in a perfect household. He's born with a perfect family, perfect amenities, perfect resources. He has his life laid out for him on a silver platter, ready for him to take one once he's ready to take it for himself. But Abel Rosnowski, on the contrast, doesn't have that. Everything in his life he has to fight for. Everything in his life he has to struggle for, and be opportunistic about it. Be on the lookout for a briefest glimpse of opportunity for him to snatch it when he sees it. That's the contrast that's established very evidently in each coming chapter of this book. So while William Kane already starts off on a high in his life, Abel Rosnowski has to start at rock bottom and claw his way upwards, and William Kane is just basically guided on his way to the top. It's that easy for him. I mean, talking about it, I'm saying, it's that easy for him, but then when you read the book, it's shown how, even though people seem to have it all in life, there are certain things that kind of hit them as well. Like William Kane is being burdened by the reputation of his family's name and how he has to grow up to be worthy of it, and that's one of those things that's easily said than done. I mean, telling that about him, that he has to be worthy of his family name, it's easy to say, but then when you actually put yourself in his position, the glory and the on all the lore that's surrounding his family, and the weight that his family holds on his country's history, and the fact that he has to grow up to be worthy of the Kane name, every move he makes in his life, he has to think if that's what the Kane family would do. He already has a name that he has to live up to, and it's not an easy path going there. It's easier for him to start because of all the resources that he has. And Abel Rosnowski, on the other hand, every chance he gets to have a come up in life, to go up that ladder of hierarchy and climb and claw his way up to success and some sort of living in life, it's all basically out of luck or struggle or fighting for it. He doesn't get anything handed over to him in his childhood. I mean, he doesn't come from a well-to-do family. He doesn't have a family that has a lot of inheritance that's waiting to come into his hands. He's born into a broken home, and he finds his way to better places through luck. And it's such a nice story. I'm not sure which part I should tell you about and which part I shouldn't, which part I should leave out so the suspense isn't ruined, because I think the whole experience, every page, every word, and every descriptive moment of their life that's being told in the story, it adds up to the element of what makes this book so perfect. I mean, that's something far-fetched to say about a book. It's been years since this book came out. I'm pretty sure there are other equally good books, or maybe even better books, but the fact that I'm biased towards non-fiction, and that a work of fiction gets me so hyped about it. It should kind of tell you how good of a book this is. Another thing I can say about this book is, though it's a work of fiction, reading through it at certain points in it, you kind of forget that it's an actual work of fiction. It grips you so much and absorbs you so much. It actually feels like it's real. Like you feel like you're reading an autobiography, or maybe a combined autobiography of two people, kind of. It feels very real. What happens is, after first giving us a brief look into the lives of these two central characters and showing us how they're growing in their path, it comes to this point where their journeys collide. And it's not just a coincidental collision, it's a rivalry. It's like this veiled rivalry where they are head-on colliding against each other, having no idea who they are. Like, Abel Rosnowski doesn't figure out his rivalry is with Kane, and Kane doesn't realize his rivalry is with Abel. I mean, they do figure that out towards the end of the book, but until that happens, the suspense that's built into it, the story that's that's taking this along with it, It's brilliantly written. It's very gripping. It's very entertaining. You don't want to put the book down. You want to read and read and read until you figure out how it ends. And that's what I'm going and that's what I'm not going to tell you. I really implore you to read it to figure out where it ends and how it ends, because oh my god, it hit me so hard. I mean, I was waiting for one particular thing to happen and it didn't happen. And I'm glad it didn't, because then it would have been predictable, and I didn't want this book to be anything close to predictable. And I'm glad to say it isn't. It isn't predictable in the least sense of it. Every page you're left in surprise, wondering what's going to happen in the next. And it's so satisfying what does happen in the next. It's not like the Game of Thrones ending that slapped you across the face. It's such a rewarding experience to read this book. And the way it ended, I kind of wish it didn't end that way. I kind of wish it ended on a more glorious, battle kind of note, because it's building up to that. The whole book is building up to this legendary battle or rivalry, in the business world between these two titans, William Kane and Abel Rosnowski. But then it ends in such an unpredictable note that it was kind of shocking and satisfying at the same time. Satisfying as in the fact that it wasn't predictable, and the fact that it was such a good way to finish this book. It was a beautiful way to end this book. I really want to talk about the ending, but I'm not going to, because I don't want to spoil it for anyone who's going to read this book. But if you're someone who's interested in business and the stock market and economics and stuff like that, and if you're interested in how a story based on business elements like that can grip you so much, even if you didn't have any idea about the business world, I really think you should read it. You can read this book and actually learn from it, though it's a work of fiction. You can understand how certain things work in the business world. If you're not very well versed in it, it can be a very good introductory book to get started on the basics of the business world. At the same time, read a really good story along with it. That's the part where I said this book seems like it seems real, though it's a work of fiction, because there are certain elements of it that's very precise, that it doesn't feel like fiction anymore when you're reading it. There's this element of class to these characters, the way they carry themselves, the way they talk, the way they handle things. There's such class in it, and the way it's implied and portrayed in this book, I really have to give it to Sir Jeffrey Archer. It's legendary, the kind of work that's put up for you to see here. It's a great book. I think it's one of those classics that is going to stand out for the test of time in the world of literature. That's how good of a book this is. Personally, I think my favorite character is William Kane. I understand, most people like the underdog character who's having a troubled past and they have to fight and earn their, rightful future in the good days that was meant for them. And in a way, yes, I do agree. I like the character arc of Abel Rosnowski more than William Kane's. I really do like Abel Rosnowski's arc more than William Kane's, because classic underdog tale. Gets dealt bad at the start, has to fight his way up to the top. It's a good success story to experience. But with that said, overall, my favorite character was William Kane, because William Kane is, if I met William Kane in reality, I don't think I'm in a position to be able to meet William Kane personally. Maybe I'll stumble into him at some point. But if I did, I'm pretty sure it would be so evidently obvious how much of a class act of a human being he is. The way he carries himself, the way he goes about things, the way he handles things. It's he's like this ideal embodiment of what you would consider a very tactful, resourceful, gentleman kind of a person. And because of that, I kind of lean towards William Kane to be my favorite character in this book out of Abel Rosnowski and William Kane. And I am super tempted to talk about the end and spoil it for you because I really love the way the book ended, but I'm not going to tell you. I'm like, I'm ordering you, pleading you, imploring you. Just read the book, man. Like, you guys have really got to read this book. It's such a good book. It's such a good book. I mean, if my bias for non-fiction didn't exist, this book is definitely going to be up there with 12 Rules for Life and Life 3.0 by Max Tegmark. And this, because of my bias, I know I've already said this. Life 3.0 is my favorite book of all time. And if that didn't exist, I think this will be up there with the other two books that I just said. And because of the bias that I have, I'm going to create a new category of fiction-based books that I read. And this book sits comfortably on the top by a mile. I think it's going to be a while before I read any other book that comes anywhere near this one. And that being said, I think that's the end for this one. I read this book. Read this book. And I think you'll really love it. And when you realize you do love it, make sure you recommend it to someone else who will also love it, because reading is a good habit that should that should be spread. You know, it's. I hate the fact that reading is a dying trend right now. I think it deserves to be back. So read it if you love it. Be sure to recommend it to someone else. Spread the good habit along with good books like this. And until next time, I'll see you with a book or a movie, I guess. And when I do see you, be in good health. Take care until then. Peace. Do good. Be good. See you next time.